Hi. Oh dear. My name is Luna. I'm 20 years old, and in February of this year, I had a severe stroke. I'm going to talk about what exactly went down. There is not enough awareness about it, so hopefully with me disheveling onto you my story, we can prevent it in the future from happening again, because that would be nice. I don't have a dog here right now, so I'm going to just pet my fish. Where do we start? Well, I suppose that's for me to decide, really. I'd just done an all-nighter where me and my flatmate got really drunk. I was supposed to be going to London on a trip with my other friend in the morning. We were supposed to arrive at the campus at 5 a.m. to go. So I just thought, to hell with it, I'm just going to carry on. And I got on the coach, and about halfway through, I just feel my face, half of my face, the left side of my face, I just feel it start to go all tingly, like pins and needles, but it wasn't. I tried to open and move my mouth, but it wasn't working. And the first thing I did was I turned to my friend Robin, and I said, Robin, I can't speak. Robin, I can't use my mouth. Robin. There was only one member of staff covering the trip because we're uni students and we are adults at this point. So she came down and she said, well, you're too young to be having a stroke. And anyway, if you were having a stroke, your face wouldn't be working. Yours is working, just not very well. So I was like, all right, if you say so, that's fine. Throughout the entire day, this happened 7 more times. About the third one in, it was spreading to my arm, and my arm felt really tingly. I called my mum and I said, look, I don't want you to worry, which is always a bad way to start things off when you call your mother, but my face isn't working. And she was quite concerned. So I went to go see the paramedics on site for the event, and the woman said the same thing. She said, don't worry, darling, it's not a stroke. You're too young to have a stroke. It's not a stroke at all. You've just got an infection. You've got an ear infection. All right, I'll take your word for it. I don't know why. I just made it adamant in my mind I was getting home. I do not want to be treated in London. I was going back to Lincoln. Without doubt. Like going around shops, and my face would just start to droop like this. I made it about 6 hours, and we finally got on the bus at about 5. And I knew that something wasn't quite right, but I have a habit of kind of brushing things under the rug. So I was like, 'tis but a scratch. I'm fine. Let's not worry. And I made it an adamant decision to sleep on the way home because I felt so sick at this point. And I was so scared of it happening again that I just slept for the whole way home, and somehow I made it back to Lincoln. Me and my friend live quite close to each other, so she walked me home. And again, I don't know quite how I got home, but I did. And she walked me in here, and my flatmates were in the kitchen. So my mum booked me an appointment because she was very worried at this point. She was like, you will go to the doctors in the morning. So I said, it's fine, I'm going to the doctors in the morning. No bother. Then I went to the loo with all of my flatmates still in the kitchen, and I go to unlock the door and my world just turns. All of my vision just goes 360, and it's like this side of my body gets really heavy, so I just like, oh shit, fuck. And all I can say is just swear words, and I'm trying so hard to stay upright, and I don't know how I unlock the door, but suddenly I finally do it, and then I just stable myself. And they hear me shouting, so my flatmates come and they're like, what the hell was wrong? I was like, and I was too busy laughing because out of nerves really, and they got me to call 111, and which I did 3 times because the first 2 times I hung up because I was adamant I didn't need any help, and then the third time they were going to send an ambulance. So I thought, oh great, this is fine, we're wasting our valuable NHS's time. The tingly face happened again, and they got quite worried, so my flatmates called the ambulance people back, and I get nervous, I need to go to the loo. On the way there, it happens again, and I just fall completely backwards, and this time I'm not caught or I don't stand up, I just fall, staring up at the ceiling, and then the paramedics are there looking at me on the floor, and I'm just laughing through sheer bloody terror and nerves. And they did all these tests, they took blood and whatnot, which I wasn't a fan of at the time. I had a huge phobia of needles, I don't now. They took my blood, and they were like, well, the thing is, you seem to be fine. Like, what an enigma. But they took me to the hospital anyway because they thought, we're just going to get you checked out because we don't really know what it is, but you seem fine to me. And then in the ambulance, the tingle face and tingle arms happened 3 more times. But because I was so nervous about it, my natural reaction was to make people laugh. My flatmate came with me. He got some shit footage. When the tongue thing would happen, I would just make the paramedic laugh because it was just so funny to me that my face didn't work. And this is the point where my brain starts to go a bit foggy, because as the brain was dying, it just sent me high as a kite and I lost a lot of memory. But I'm having fun. I'm having a whale of a time. I am like drunk without the perk.
Can I try?
Go on then.
You're really short.
This is the friend that helped me not die.
The friend has a name.
Louie. This is Louie.
So, we get a bit of a ride in an ambulance. That was
bit
fun.
of a ride.
I was a bit concerned.
Yeah, but no one gave a shit at that point because we didn't think it was anything serious.
I mean, the paramedics were lovely.
They were
albeit
lovely.
blissfully unaware.
Yeah.
We get there and they just plonk us in A&E.
They plonk us. They do actually.
They're like, where you would go if you sprain your ankle, like, go to A&E.
I don't remember this bit.
Okay, so we sit down and we wait for a bit. And then we go and we get some blood taken.
Oh yeah, the really mean nurses.
So that happened, then we sat back down. Then you have the stroke. I forgot that bit. So we're waiting, it's been about 3 hours, it's just me and you.
Yeah.
A few other people chilling. And you like start to pull the face. You start to do the face thing. And I'm like, right. It's been a while since you last did that. So I turn around to these people who are sat behind me in A&E and I go, do you mind like going to the people at reception and getting someone to come and help? Because I don't think shit's going going very well here.
I really don't remember.
And they go to get up, but then the doctor comes in. He goes, Luna Jarvis, because that's your name.
That is my name.
And I'm like, boy, time to get seen. He comes over, and then you just go from being like a bit droopy to being on the floor. And I'm like, oh, are you okay, mate?
So the second the doctor calls my name, about 2 hours after we've been there, the second he does, I feel, or lack of, my entire left side on my entire body just disappear. It just drops and I fall on the floor. My friend is trying his best to hold me up. He's trying to get me off the floor. I can't get off the floor. I was just lost.
Your face had the expression of just pure fear, and you were just like paralysed on the ground, like kind of spasming a little bit, but otherwise paralysed. And the doctor came round.
He takes one look at me, looks at my friend, and he says, when she's finished doing what she's doing, bring her in. Because he thought I was drunk. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't drunk at all.
And the doctor was like in front of me, and as you've already mentioned, he was like, when you're ready, pick her up, put her in a chair and wheel her into my room. And I'm like, mate,
you wanted to kill him.
I was like, are you having Scoobies with me right now? You're heavy.
Oh, well, yeah.
But I scraped you off the ground and put you in this chair, and at this point you're like totally gone. So I'm wheeling you into the doctor's room. And
Did we go to the doctor?
Yeah, we had a conversation with the doctor.
Did we?
So we went into the doctor's room.
Okay.
And he was like, right. He talks to you. You're like lying in a chair, and he goes, so tell me what's going on. And you're there like, and it's brilliant. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have to speak for her. And he's like, right. Okay. And then he shines a few lights in your eyes and stuff. And then he's like, okay, well, just go sit back in A&E. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll go sit back in A&E.
I do not remember this bit at all.
So
I didn't even know we saw him.
We did, yeah. So I will be back into A&E. Exactly where we were before. Like,
Excellent.
Nothing's changed apart from the fact that you've just had a stroke.
Okay.
And this is where it gets, like, really scary, because you're like...
Oh, only now does it get really scary.
Because you're, like, there next to me in this wheelchair thing, trying to fall asleep or, like, just dozing off because, I don't know, your expression's really blank. Like, your body is completely limp.
I remember going like this.
You're, like, slowly just, like, nodding off, and I'm like, right, if she falls asleep, whip.
I knew that falling asleep was a bad idea, and so did he. All I wanted to do was just drop off, but my friend kept talking to me, he kept saying words, and what would happen is, I would laugh to let him know that I can hear him, I just can't reply.
I just try for, like, a solid hour to not make you fall asleep, because otherwise you'd probably just literally die.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, okay, that is not happening. I tell a few jokes that are very bad, and
Right,
I get like half a smile.
What they told me afterwards was half of my face was laughing, but then my other two friends on this side saw nothing. So it's like this.
After an hour of that, thank God, our other flatmates turn up. I told everyone that was concerned.
I didn't
everything
realise.
was fine.
Oh really?
Oh,
cool.
Up until this point, I've been like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm just getting some tests, and there was no signal in the A&E room either, apart from on your phone, which I didn't have the passcode for.
Oh right, God.
And then out of nowhere, they just appear, and I'm like, oh, thank you. So we all sit, and then somehow you start to like come back, like you start to gain a bit more consciousness. Mm-hmm. You're like, I need the toilet, and we're like. Right. So Jamie takes you to the toilet and we're like, okay, how's that going to work?
I have one female flatmate and I said to her, I'm really sorry, but I need the loo and I don't know what to do. And we're still sitting in A&E. We're still in the waiting room at this point. And I for this whole time, I haven't really been sure what's going on. I'm quite blissfully unaware to the whole thing. But when I try and stand up to get out of the chair and I can't, that's when it hits me. That's when the fear of, oh my God, I'm dying, comes in. And I don't know how, but we managed. I was in the A&E waiting room having a severe brain damage issue for about 5 hours. And then all of a sudden, this man is wheeling me to a scanning room.
And then we take you for a CT scan.
How did that
I
happen?
take you for a CT scan. Another lady comes in and she's like, okay, we're going to need to take you for a CT scan. I'm like, right, okay, I'll come with. We wheel you down to the CT room, which is just next to A&E. And I sit and I wait for you to do the scans. And I can hear you talking, just rambling rubbish.
Am I?
To these, like, doctor people who are, like, trying to scan you.
I don't remember.
And you're like, they're like, if you just want to get out your chair and lie in this thing, you're like, I'm sorry, I can't feel half my body.
All I see above me is this circle and darkness. I'm completely high as a fucking kite. I'm lying on this table. This woman appears and she said, I'm going to inject you now with whatsoever now. And I just heard noises. At the time, I thought it was amazing because I couldn't feel the needle. And they were injecting me with dye so that they could see where my veins were.
That happens and you come back out and we sit back in A&E again. And then after a bit more sitting down, someone comes in and they're like, Luna, we're going to take you to the stroke ward. And we're like, oh. Because at this point, we kind of know what's happened, but we don't want to jump to the stroke
Well, first of all, I had no idea throughout the whole day. I had no idea.
Yeah, because you're too young to
exactly.
So it might actually be the thing that we think it might be, but we don't want to think it is.
We get wheeled into that separate
Yeah,
bit.
we get wheeled into the, like a little bit, which is where we originally got took after the ambulance.
Yeah.
And we chilled there for a bit. And we chill for a bit longer, and they try to get you sorted out with like some tags and shit.
I don't remember the tag part. I remember the woman coming in and being like, you can go with her up to the stroke unit, but once she gets there, you've got to
come
go.
back, yeah.
There's this nurse talking to him and she says, you can come with her, but once we get to the stroke unit, you have to go. And I look at him. I go to you and I'm like, don't you fucking dare. You are not going anywhere. You are not fucking moving. Don't you dare leave me. You cannot leave me alone. Also, why am I going to a stroke unit when I haven't had a stroke? I'm not a pensioner.
So I go and get all your stuff, like your bag and your phone, and we go to the stroke ward. It's quite a long way to get to the stroke ward from A&E, but there you go. You get put in a bed. It's really comfy. You get given your own room. And as soon as we get to the stroke ward, your mum appears and I'm like...
Thank Christ.
Oh my lord, it's getting better. So she turns up, we have a bit of a moment.
We have a bit of a moment.
And then
the next thing I remember is I'm in a bed with paper trousers on and this nurse comes in and she says, have they told you what's happened to you? And I just, no, I don't know anything. Why am I here? She said, you've had a severe stroke. I said, oh, and I start to cry, much like I am now. But then, it kind of just brushes off me like water off a duck's back because I'm like, oh my God, I need to make sure my friend's okay. Like, where is he? I have to present this in the best way possible. So he comes in. I haven't told him. And he comes in, and the only words that I can think to say, the only word, and this is the way I said it, he walks in, and I just said, hey, so I've had a stroke. and he just starts to cry.
It wasn't very fun.
No.
I stay until
9 a.m.
9 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah. Me and my friend are just sat there, and he's crying, and I'm crying, and we're there until 9 a.m. where I send him home, because I knew he would have stayed. You've got to go get some rest. So I convinced him, and my stepdad drove him home. I didn't realise how many people cared, if that makes sense. I got cards signed by everyone, a lot of people who I only have met when I'm drunk. Every day I'd have visitors. It was just amazing. The next day after I send my friend home, he comes back with a couple of friends, and I'm like, I've got a surprise for you. Because I figured out that if you kind of just swing your leg and hope for the best, you can walk. So what do? I get up out of bed and I walk.
Luna, what the hell, man?
I can walk. I can't feel it, but I can do it.
You fucking nuts.
You move quicker than I can.
I can do it. She's not, if you see, she's not actually straightening that leg very much, but you can walk, can't you?
Yeah.
You got better so quick.
Yeah.
Like, they
I'm
gave
a
you little
fucking boss,
tests
what
to
can I
do.
Okay. Oh shit, no.
Do you want to do a take 2?
Wait, just keep going.
It went better in rehearsal. Alright, don't forget, that's right, get your hand right. Well done. Get your hand right round it rather than...
I know how to hold a cup.
Okay.
There.
Excellent.
Thank you.
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
You've been doing really well. The whole situation was so kind of petrifying because young people don't have strokes. It's very important that this story gets shared. The awareness needs to be out there. So
I want to make it adamant that just because we're young, we're not off the hook at all.
The day before she had the stroke, we got a bit pissed and we went out and stuff like that. It was happy as Larry. Next day, you're in a hospital bed having a stroke.
Just like that.
It can happen to anyone.
I am doing this because, and I've said this from day one, I said this to my mother in the bathroom of the hospital, I don't mind that the stroke has happened to me because it's got to happen to someone. I mind that it didn't have to. That woman on the bus, that paramedic, the other ambulance paramedics, the doctor, the stroke unit, once I got there, was amazing, but they were livid because they said, we go down to A&E every single time and we tell them, if you see anyone of any age with signs of a stroke, you send them up here right now because we have an injection that stops it, or an aspirin. If someone had just given me an aspirin, I need to turn this into a positive. I'm 20 years old. There have been younger. Babies have strokes. Everybody can have a stroke, but in the adverts, on the posters, everything, even in like general society and life, it's perceived as something only old people get. And yeah, they do, but young people get it too. I had over 7. If you see the signs for a stroke, it probably is one. It's the 11th of May, and I am still completely numb on my entire left side, but the difference is I'm really good at hiding it now, so I can move all my fingers, but I can't feel that. I'm on medication for life. I'm not trying to scare anyone, for the love of God, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but you need to know that just because we're young, we're not off the hook, okay?